Genghis Khan. His armies forged the largest land empire in history. You've probably heard the stories, right? The million-man cavalry, the brilliant military tactics, and the brutal conquests that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. But what if I told you Genghis Khan's most powerful legacy wasn't the horse or the composite bow? What if the Great Khan set in motion a piece of financial technology that seemed like pure magic to outsiders? Something a young Venetian merchant named Marco Polo could barely even comprehend? This is the story of how the Mongols unleashed a money cheat code that nearly gave them the world, and how its spectacular collapse became a timeless lesson about the very nature of the money in your pocket today. To get why this weapon was so revolutionary, you have to understand the massive problem Genghis created. By conquering so much land so quickly, he left behind a logistical nightmare. Just try to imagine running a company that stretches from modern-day Korea all the way to Poland. How do you pay an army stationed in Persia with tribute you just collected from a village in southern China? The old way was coins. Gold, silver, copper, but that was slow, wildly inefficient, and incredibly dangerous. A single caravan might have to haul literal tons of metal across thousands of miles of treacherous terrain, making it a juicy target for bandits. And collecting taxes and grain or livestock? Even worse. The goods could spoil or die long before they ever reached the emperor. The empire was so huge, its economy so complex, that it was choking on its own success. The brilliant military machine had an engine that was about to seize up. It needed a new kind of fuel, something lighter, faster, and more efficient to move value across continents. The solution the Mongols embraced was so radical, it would take Europe another 400 years to even try it. It was paper money. Now, let's be clear, the Mongols didn't invent paper money. Chinese dynasties had been using forms of it for centuries. But the real revolution was about scale and control. The blueprint for this weapon came from Genghis Khan himself. In 1227, shortly before his death, he authorized the very first use of paper notes, effectively planting the seed for the world's first fiat currency. He didn't live to see the weapon fully deployed, but his grandson Kublai would pick up exactly where Genghis left off. In 1253, the great Khan Manji, Genghis's grandson, created a Department of Monetary Affairs to get this under control, a first attempt to standardize the system. But it was his brother, the legendary Kublai Khan, who truly weaponized it. Coming to power in 1260, Kublai created the world's first unified and standardized paper currency system, backed by the full terrifying power of the Khan. He called it the Chao. This wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. Kublai made the Chao the only legal currency in his Chinese domain. To make sure everyone used it, he ordered that all gold and silver, whether owned by his subjects or brought in by foreign merchants, had to be turned over to his treasury. In exchange, you got these new paper notes. According to the traveler Marco Polo, refusing to accept the paper money was a crime punishable by death. And just to be sure, the notes themselves warned that counterfeiters would also be executed. This was the masterstroke. Kublai Khan had created a state-enforced monopoly on money itself. In theory, the Chao was backed by the silver in his treasury, and you could exchange it back if you needed to. But by forcing everyone to use his paper, he created instant, universal demand for something made from the bark of a tree. For a while, Genghis's gamble worked like a charm. The financial system he authorized became an economic miracle. It became the engine of the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace. With a single lightweight currency accepted from Beijing to the borders of Persia, the Silk Road roared back to life. Merchants no longer had to drag heavy, dangerous chests of coins across Asia. They could travel with a few slips of paper. Their wealth was guaranteed by the Khan's decree. Trade exploded. Ideas, technology, and goods flowed across the continent like never before. This new economy was supercharged by the Mongols' Yam postal system, a vast network of relay stations. It worked like the FedEx of the 13th century. Marco Polo, coming from a Europe still clanking around with metal coins, was absolutely stunned. He dedicated an entire chapter of his famous book to this system. He described with disbelief how Kublai Khan could make money from nothing more than mulberry bark. He wrote, "With these pieces of paper, he makes them pass current universally over all his kingdoms. And nobody, however important he may think himself, dares to refuse them on pain of death." Polo marveled that the Khan could buy endless treasures, gems, pearls, gold, and pay for it all with money that cost him nothing at all. From the Khan's point of view, it was the ultimate cheat code. He could fund enormous public works. maintain a lavish court, and pay a continent-spanning army, all by printing it. As one historian later noted, he had become the world's first true master of fiat money. But there was a fatal flaw in this perfect system, and the Mongols knew it. Remember Genghis Khan's reform in 1253? That was all about preventing nobles from printing too much money. He understood that the value of this paper was built on a fragile foundation: trust. The temptation, however, proved too great for Kublai Khan's successors. The golden rule was simple: don't print more money than you have silver to back it up, but the empire was expensive. Failed military campaigns, like the attempted invasions of Japan, drained the treasury. And the solution was just too easy: print more money. Starting around 1272, the government began issuing more notes without enough silver to back them. The money was no longer a claim on treasure, it was just paper, and people noticed. Slowly at first, then all at once. Inflation spiraled out of control. Why would a farmer sell his rice for a piece of paper that would be worth less tomorrow? He'd demand real silver, or just go back to bartering. As public confidence vanished, the value of the Chao plummeted. The government, facing a massive budget shortfall, did the only thing it could think of: it printed even more. This created a death spiral of hyperinflation. By the mid-1300s, the currency was practically worthless. Trade seized up. Tax revenues collapsed. Soldiers, their salaries useless, began to desert and revolt. The Mongols had tried to export this system once before. In 1294, to their territory in Persia, the Ilkhanate. It was an immediate and total disaster. The public, unfamiliar with the concept, flatly refused the paper. The experiment was abandoned in months. After bringing trade to a complete standstill, it was a harsh lesson: paper money couldn't just be imposed. It had to be trusted. The collapse of the currency system didn't single-handedly destroy the Mongols' Yuan Dynasty in China. But it crippled the state, fueled widespread unrest, and became a major factor in its final fall in 1368. The Mongol experiment with paper money ended in a spectacular failure. The Ming dynasty that replaced them was so scarred by the experience that they mostly abandoned paper money. China returned to a metallic system for centuries. But the story doesn't end there. The failure of the Chao contains a profound lesson about money itself. Any currency, whether it's a piece of paper, a digital entry in a bank account, or even a gold coin, is a social contract. Its value comes from a shared belief and trust in the authority that issues it. The Mongols showed the incredible power that comes from controlling that trust. But they also gave history its first great cautionary tale of what happens when that trust is shattered. And even in failure, they changed the world. Marco Polo and other European travelers brought home stories of this financial alchemy. Europe wasn't ready for the idea yet. The first official European banknotes weren't issued until 1661 in Sweden. And that experiment also ended in an inflationary collapse. But the seed had been planted. The concept of money as an abstract tool of the state, not just a lump of shiny metal, had been introduced to the West. So while the image of the Mongol warrior on horseback defines their conquests, their true, lasting legacy might just be the ghost of a paper banknote. They'd played with a financial fire that ultimately burned their empire. But in doing so, they revealed a power that would one day reshape the entire global economy. The story of Mongol paper money is a powerful reminder that history's greatest changes are often accidental. A military problem led to a financial revolution, which led to an economic catastrophe, which planted an idea that would change everything. So that makes me wonder, what historical figure do you think had the biggest accidental impact on the modern world? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, if you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about the hidden forces that shape our world. Thanks for watching.